I finally got revenge on my ex-husband and his lover. It had been nearly a year since I left my husband, though in truth, it felt like it had happened in another lifetime, a distant, surreal chapter in which I had lived blind to the duplicities that now danced before me like ghosts. When I learned of his infidelity, it was not the revelation itself that struck the deepest blow. Betrayals are as ancient as love itself, but the absurdity of the other woman's jealousy, her constant insecurity over my very existence. She had never met me, yet somehow, I had become the shadow that loomed over her every moment with him, the unspoken presence in their stolen hours together. Why had she tortured herself so, comparing herself to me, the wife, as if the role conferred some impossible superiority? She had lived in that purgatory, trapped between her envy and the illusion that she could replace me. It was a torment I would never understand, her obsession with a life that was not hers to live, her strange fixation on the ordinary existence I had carved out with him, all while she mocked it in secret. I uncovered their messages in the same way one might uncover a half-buried artifact, the truth emerging bit by bit, with each word heavier than the last. There she was, pleading with him to leave me, telling him I was boring, tasteless, even incapable of understanding the dark pleasures she indulged with him. Her words stung, not because they rang true, but because they were spoken at all, because I had been oblivious to the hidden lives that had coiled beneath the surface of my own. In her mind, she had built a kingdom of passion and intrigue, while I was left tending to children and the mundane realities of life. She fancied herself the savior of his desires, and yet, he never intended to leave me. That was the part that filled me with a curious sense of victory. He confessed it himself, long after I had made the choice to walk away. I was the one who ended it. I was the one who stood, not in defeat, but in triumph with the final word, while she remained ensnared in the very web she had spun. In those early days, I told myself to rise above it all. For the sake of the children, I held my tongue, even as she paraded her new position in his life with the pettiest of provocations. At school meetings, she would bump into me with all the subtlety of a schoolgirl, her whispered jabs as childish as they were transparent. Friends told me to be the bigger person, to let it go, to walk the path of grace and dignity. But what had that gotten me in the end? What had all my restraint, all my goodness earned? I had been mocked, betrayed, discarded, and so I decided to play a different game. I began to flirt with my ex-husband. Not because I wanted him back, God forbid that. I could never return to that hollow farce. No, I did it for the pleasure of watching her unravel. I saw the jealousy flicker in her eyes like a flame that burned too close, saw the tension build between them as I whispered just enough to keep her on edge. He, poor fool, could not resist the temptation, thinking perhaps that I might relent, that I might still be his. But I laughed inwardly as I dangled the possibility before him, only to snatch it away. Their relationship began to fracture under the weight of my little games. She came with him when he picked up the children, her eyes searching mine with suspicion, as if I might steal him away with a single glance. She forbade him from even uttering my name. I found it deliciously amusing. The power I held over him was something she could never grasp, a bond forged not of love, but of the years we had shared. He began erasing her from his life in subtle ways. Photos disappeared from social media, mentions of her dwindled, and when he begged me to reconsider, to come back, calling her a mere mistake, I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. He sent me desperate messages, his voice cracking with the realization that his world was falling apart, but I offered him only vague promises of time. I knew they were fighting more and more, their fragile connection fraying like a thread stretched too thin. It was my revenge, though I never called it that. Some would say I was cruel, petty even. But after what they had done, I felt no guilt. I had been the good one for so long, and what had that gotten me? No, I played the game on my terms, and I felt no remorse. In truth, I do not care if others judge me for it. I have found a strange sense of freedom in this game, a control I had never known before. Let them fight, let them tear each other apart. I will sleep soundly, knowing I have finally claimed a piece of the peace I deserve. Truly, I cannot find fault with the way you feel, nor the manner in which you now choose to act. Betrayal of the heart, compounded by the weight of disrespect, leaves scars that run deep. When one has borne the burden of holding together the fragile threads of a life, there comes a time when the soul longs to reclaim what was lost: dignity, strength, and the power to shape one's own destiny. It is a kind of justice, albeit tangled in the complexities of human frailty. You did not ask for the trials that have been placed before you, and now that you stand within their storm, who could deny you the right to respond in the only way that brings you peace? Life, in its unrelenting cruelty, sometimes grants us but one consolation, that in our suffering, we may seize control of what remains. You have earned this moment, and it is not for others to judge your path.